I abandoned my Neopet. Not just now, but every single time I've had a virtual pet, I've ended up, at some point, leaving it behind in the world I found it. And I bet you have too. It's simply a matter of the nature of the pets we meet in these types of games. We make friends with them, go on adventures, and live these fantastical lives only to end up putting away our virtual pets and leaving them forever in the digital world that they came from. Why do they matter? How many games use having a virtual pet to hook us and bring us into the game? And why do we feel content and happy to leave our old friend back in the digital void at the end of it? Welcome to Unlock Lore, where we break down the storytelling patterns that shape your favorite games, movies, and stories. Today, we're exploring virtual pets through the lens of one of my favorite childhood games, Neopets. Many of us were probably exposed first to the world of virtual pets through a handheld device called Tamagotchi. They were a key-sized electronic released by Bandai in Japan in November of 1996. If your school was anything like mine, then this digital pet went absolutely crazy, and just having one was often a status symbol in class. People were walking everywhere with these in the halls, playing with them, taking care of them, and ignoring the teachers banning them because they were just that cool. Also, if you didn't take care of it, your Tamagotchi would die and suffer. So, of course, you ignore the teachers saying you shouldn't have it because your virtual pet's life was on the line. It was designed from the inventor, Aki Maeda, from when she wanted to bring her turtle on vacation and couldn't. Thus, the idea of a virtual pet became a staple in gaming from that day forward. Tamagotchi went on to make over 10 million sales in the first year, flooding both Japan and North America since. They've gotten numerous licensing deals and inspired so much competition, just in the space of digital pets that you can bring around with you as a device. They've become a staple. You can see them in every single Walmart or Target you head to today. Yes, that means that you too can pick up a virtual pet again. In fact, I challenge you to do so. Buy one and see how long you're willing to keep it as part of your life. Because by the end of this video, you'll get a feel for just how these are designed to be used and why they are the way they are. Tamagotchi weren't the only early digital pets. In fact, we see the same idea of adopting, raising, and taking care of your pets repeated quite often in games. Digimon is another early example of this, mirroring Tamagotchi in the way that you take care of your Digimon and raise them. But it has the added appeal of letting them battle. Naturally, this led to a rise in other adjacent monster raising games. We see Pokemon coming into existence, Harvest Moon, where we can raise animals, and later on the game Nintendogs and other types of direct virtual pet simulators. The market and use of this particular type of game are expansive and have only grown year over year, branching out deeply into gaming itself as it sets its hooks into us. But the one I remember playing the most as a kid, and the game that got me hooked on the idea of virtual pets at all, actually started with Neopets. More precisely, the handheld device version of Neopets. Neopets Mirabelle Handheld, a device which back then was about only $20 and now sells for over $150. After getting this device, I was obsessed. Within a week, I found out what Neopets was and that it had a site, and then I begged my way into getting computer time. Eventually, thanks to the loving grace of my parents, I had myself my first ever Neopet, this guy. I remember thinking he was so cool with that bandage on his head. He was just a cute little guy who I could explore this world with, and I loved him instantly and wanted to take care of him forever. But it wasn't forever. Later, as I grew up, I forgot my Neopets account. I forgot the email I'd even used, and I didn't miss him as much. I had my fun on Neopets, but I was on to the next game, continuing onward to see more what video games had to offer. But what made Neopets such a special sight? And why do, even when I think about it now, I feel a fond warmness in my heart for my oldest friend and my time spent on this site? Neopets was the perfect storm of raising a virtual pet, taking the logical conclusion of having a pet and introducing it to games. Their website transports you to a magical world that we can explore through the lens of the pet we adopt, and then we get to experience it with them. At the time, and even now, it feels like a complete place, with secrets hidden around every corner. I wanted to explore what brought this magical world to life back then, and how my memories of it compare to what I feel now. So first, like those oh so many years ago, I set out on a mission. Create a Neopet and recapture the magic of the world. I chose this red guy, mostly because it just seemed right. He's a cool dragon, and I think I remembered him being here long ago. The thing is though, looking at the options of the different Neopets, it's quite limited. Given it's been so long since this site first came out, there hasn't been a lot of updates to the types of Neopets you can have. It left me confused, but in short order, I had my Neopet, Pizza Emperor. I chose that name on account of him looking like he'd like to eat a lot of pizzas. What with that gut and that face, I just can't picture anything else. So we set out on our adventure, eager to see what Neopets had to offer now. Instantly, I began to look through the menus to get a feel for who Pizza Emperor was. Or at least I tried to. Honestly, looking at my new Neopet made me feel hollow. This was the pet I adopted. This would be my companion for this ride, but I didn't really feel a sense of connection. I could feed him, dress him, and explore, but I didn't really feel a sense of connection to him. I remembered that with my first Neopet, I instantly felt attached, and like I'd fight the whole world just to see him do well. In comparison, Pizza Emperor left me with a shallow feeling. Knowing he was just here as an observer to my adventure, not an instant friend. Thinking I was maybe just jaded after exposure to many games like these and being an adult, I set out to see how the world of Neopets changed together with Pizza Emperor. The site is in a weird state of stasis combined with change from before, with parts of it appearing to be the much older format I remembered and parts of it appearing new and modern. Despite this, together I and Pizza Emperor intend to conquer this world. I still don't know what to make of the creature I'd adopted, but after exploring around a bit, I felt like maybe a good place to start was to take care of him and ensure that the Neopet I was in charge of would thrive. Sure, maybe I didn't feel attached, but it was the least I could do to fulfill my duties as the owner. My first order of business was to get him food. I managed to find a store and purchase a hot dog. Perfect. Well, almost. It wasn't a pizza, but it was enough to load my pal up and get us ready for more of the adventure, which was me navigating the site. There's a lot here. Stumbling through the different worlds, I got a taste of Neopets. It's a distinctly cartoonish world, and I can see the loving detail crafted into it. You click something and there's a story there. Sometimes the story can be hard to see, hidden away behind obscure and lengthy means, but it's there. Actually, I was quite impressed by just the depth of some of these stories, often pages long with content and world building that you can lose yourself and immerse yourself in. And I remember this being the appeal of Neopets. Even as I felt my connection to Pizza Emperor as tenuous at best, going through these menus and seeing the stories, I was reminded of just how many deep dives and activities there are here. For example, you can enter writing contests, you can enter poetry contests, and you can see years and years of work and creativity on full display. As you sit and let yourself be immersed, exploring around and seeing the cute Neopets in the world in which they exist, you're just left with an overwhelming feeling of peace and wonder. We crawled through the site, exploring the different areas, losing our minds over why certain things were different than how I remembered, and also stumbling upon an old revelation of a feature that I'd forgot even existed. There's gambling. There is a lot more gambling on this site than I remember. You can spin wheels, you can bet on 2 different types of slot machines, you can play actual poker, and you can even play one of my favorite old card games called Cheat. For a moment, I stepped away from the world and into the space of games, losing all of my Neopoints to degeneracy. Then a second quest was born. I'd messed up. I'd spent every single bit of Neopoints I had in this world, and now, for better or for worse, I felt a bit of responsibility to the Neopet who'd gone along with me on my short adventure. Even though I knew Pizza Emperor would be fine, that he was just an image on a website of an old game from the early 2000s, I now felt a kind of obligation. I couldn't just leave him penniless, too broke to afford food. I needed to make Neopoints. I started to look at the other side of what made this so addictive as a kid. The games. And God, there's so many games to play here. A ton of early Flash games, some fun, some not so fun, some really fun. I went on a spree. Game after game, I slowly tallied up what I'd lost, making a nice stockpile to leave my Neopet happy with when I disappeared again. In the end, I'd made a small yet modest fortune. I bought Pizza Emperor pizza, knowing he'd be happy and now able to survive. I felt confident in leaving him now to his own devices. And I reached a realization. Virtual pets are very similar to the way we take care of ourselves. The appeal of taking care of something cute in a digital space is that it's controllable. We have the power to nurture and raise another creature, and there's an inherent kindness to this action that we lend ourselves to. Even in times we struggle to take care of ourselves, being able to reach out and give that kind of aid to another thing reinforces the importance of taking that time out to care in general. By being kind to virtual monsters, plants, or even if you're lucky enough, the real furry friends in your life, you are reminded to take care of yourself. This emotional connection is a healthy thing. As kids, it lets us develop empathy and healthy positive emotions. For adults, it's a reminder to be kind and to take care of ourselves. And in the end, these virtual games are meant to be temporary. Very few of them can be lasting and impactful and stay with you other than in your memories. The Neopet you adopt or the Pokemon you capture for your team are there for the adventure you go on. They're a friendly face to guide you through the experience and remind you of the positive connections we can make and develop when we care about things. But they're designed in a way to be a lens, sometimes a resource like in Palworld where we can tame so many that they lose meaning, unless you go out of your way and make sure that they do have meaning. They're temporary, but that's perfectly fine. They leave us with lasting memories that can make us better, more empathetic people. They can be a hook that can invest us into the world they come from, a friendly hand guiding us into the complex setting, then we can explore it together with them. Or they can be something we care for and nourish and then in turn learn and remember to do that to ourselves and others. Pizza Emperor will be in my heart for a long time. He was with me on my stroll down memory lane of a game that captivated my childhood. And though our journey was shorter than it was back then, it was meaningful in its own way. At the start, I didn't care much for him, seeing him as a simple image on a website, but he rapidly became more than that. And I've seen the power that these types of games have. How we've seen the genre of gaming grow and include them in novel ways, letting us interact with and customize our digital friends, is only growing stronger. The call for Pokemon to manifest our pals in a 3D space has seen traction, and the rise of digital pets is still high and always in demand. I think too that the way that artificial intelligence has been growing, there's space for a whole new layer of complications and relationships that can come from these kinds of games. But as a tool, the digital companions bring a certain levity to the games they're in. They ground us and make us more invested in the story as we form our own personal connections to the monsters and animals within them. Even more methods of achieving this feeling can yield wonderful results, letting us make lasting memories in games. In the end, I left Pizza Emperor on Neopets, but I left him with enough of what I felt were Neopoints to survive. Later I'll be sending him for adoption so another might treasure his company. The site, for me, has aged more than I remember. It's not something that I necessarily have the time to get back into and explore anymore, and it's not exactly the same place I remember it being when I was a kid. Growing more attached to my Neopet within it now, more than anything, remind me of what the value of a Neopet was and just why it was so incredibly cool and such a powerful mark on my childhood. I'd recommend anyone give it a spin or find another game and really hone in on the experience of the pal within it. It brightens everything about the game. Attaching to our friends makes the experience and memories more vivid, lasting, and real. It has and always will be such a valuable piece to any game that dares to incorporate it. Next time you have the ability to adopt an animal or monster in a game, really dig in and let yourself experience taking care of it and treasure that feeling, knowing that in doing so, you're going to make yourself a better person as part of the process. If you like this video, please let me know down below in the comments. Every single one I've gotten so far has been so wonderful, and I'd love to know what you guys want to see when it comes to more of this channel. This is the third video I've created ever, and honestly, it's been a lot of fun to do. I'm eager to cover more insights into gaming, and if you're up to sticking around for that, please consider subscribing to see more stuff like this. Until next time, thank you very much.